Alright, here's the fuel pump for our 97 CRV. I think it's the same fuel pump, at least for 97, 98, might be the same up to 2001, but I'm not exactly sure. In any case, this is it. This is actually an old one, it's not the new one. I'll show you the new one later. The fuel pickup is right down here. Actually, there's a fuel strainer that connects to that, and you'll see that in the whole assembly when we pull it out of the tank. And then the exit is up here on this little piece of hose that connects to some copper tubing to get it through the hatch cover on the tank. So that's about it. Not much to it. This whole thing sits inside the tank in the fuel. So when we get going on this, there will be some fuel to deal with, and we'll just have to be careful when we do that. Make sure you disconnect the battery terminals before you start this. It's also probably a good idea to have a fire extinguisher around, just in case any mishap occurs. The where we get to this is through the back seat on the driver's side of the car. So we need to get through the back seat and take some stuff apart there. So let's head to the back seat and let's start getting to this thing. Okay, so to get to the fuel pump back here, there's an access hatch under the back seat here, and I'll show you here. So we can just lift up the seat and you'll see we have this plastic cover that basically covers the floorboard. We'll need to remove this, and then we can see where the access hatch is and also how to get the back seat out. So first thing is we'll get rid of that plastic cover. Okay, so once we have that that plastic cover off here, you can see the access hatch we're going after the fuel pump assembly with. So this has to come off. You might think for a minute that, hey, I don't have to take the seat out, but the problem is these bars are in the way and you just don't have access. You won't be able to get the pump out. So we have to take the seat out, which is no big deal. There's only 4 points of contact. One is here, one is here, so there's 2 in back, and then the other 2 are up front under these little covers. So you just pull that up and there's a bolt under there and one on each side here. And so now you can just pry that off and get that one. So there's only 4 bolts you have to take out, and once the seat comes out pretty easy, and then we have complete access to that spot. Okay, so we have the rear seat out, and here's the access panel that gets us to the top of the fuel tank where the fuel pump is. So it's just held on by these 3 screws, and we'll just go ahead and get these off. I'll show you what's under here. So here we go. So that's the area that we need to access, and we need to get through here and get down to the pump and get it out. Alright, so I just spent a bunch of time with a shop vac and a stiff brush. This whole area was just covered with dirt. Underneath here is the, you can see the street below here, so a lot of dust gets up here. So I thought it'd be a good idea just to get rid of as much as I could before we started digging into this. This boot we need to get off, and that just pops off like that. And then under here is this connector, which just comes off by pushing that tab in and sliding that off. So there, that plate is free, and I could probably stand to clean some of that more of that up, so I probably will before we take the next step. Okay, so I've got this pretty well cleaned up. So before we can take off this access hatch, access cover where the fuel pump is, there's 6 nuts we need to remove. But we need to take off the fuel lines. So this one's a little more challenging. It's not that big a deal, it just looks intimidating. But this has this fancy clip on it that holds the line on because of the pressure this is under. So, and basically what you have to do, and I can't do this when holding the camera, but you have these tabs. There's one on the top and one on the bottom, and we'll just squeeze that, and then that releases it here. And then as I squeeze that, I'll just take my other hand and slide this piece back. So most likely more gas is going to come out of this line. There's going to be a little gas in it, so I'm just going to be ready to try and soak some of it up and hope not too much comes out. Okay, so I got both fuel lines off. One thing I forgot to mention earlier before you do this is to take off the fuel cap off before you fill up. The tank gets under pressure, and if you take these off before you do that, gas will shoot out of either of these pipes or both until that pressure is relieved. So the best thing is to just undo the gas cap and relieve some of that pressure. So you see I got some gas around. There's still some leaking out of the lines, so, but not too bad. So I got it cleaned up, so I guess now's a bad time to smoke. Okay, so I just took off those 6 nuts and I lifted this whole assembly out, which is the fuel pump, a strainer, and the float, you know, for the level of the tank. It's unfortunate I'm doing this with a full tank because this gas goes all the way right to the top. So anyway, had to work it out a little bit to get through that hole, but it's pretty straightforward. Just be careful you don't, torque on anything, particularly the float. You don't want to mess that up. So anyway, this is the whole assembly. I've got it out now, so here's the pump right there, and that's what we're going to replace. I think it goes without saying to probably cover up the tank with that gas in it so we don't get any impurities in there, and I'll probably just throw this rag over it so that we don't get any big pieces of dust or dirt. Keep stuff out of it. Doesn't smell real good, so we'll just cover that for now. And then okay, so I've drained as much gas out of this as I can, and a little bit still leaked out, but there's not a whole lot much more I can do. So to get this fuel pump off, this right here, I'll eventually have to take this strainer off, but there's a little, down in here it's hard to see, there's a little clip that needs to come off. That post that it's on is on the pump, so we'll need to get that clip off. And that's just one of those force-on retainer clips, and I'll probably just grab a screwdriver and rip that off. There's a new one that comes with the pump, new pump. And then I'm going to cut, here's the hose that connects the pump to the outlet tube, and I'm just going to cut that in the middle. And then so once I get rid of that and get that retainer clip, I should be able to get the pump off. I've already taken the connector off, so that was held on by this little gray clip, and so I just ripped that off. This won't go on the new pump. It looks like the new pump is slightly different, so I'll probably just end up not using that. And it looks like this clip, this connector fits on the new pump, but I'll check to make sure that again. The new pump comes with actually a connector that fits it exactly. They look pretty the same. So if I can't get this one to work, I'll have to splice this new one in, but I think I'll make it work. Yeah, so let's get this done. Okay, so I got the old pump out. I did it just like I said. I got rid of the old, took off the old retainer clip, cut the old hose, and it popped right out. Only took a couple minutes, so that's no big deal. So now we'll get ready to put the new pump on, and I'll basically just reverse it. The new pump came with the exact right length of pipe, hose actually, and then a couple new clips, hose clamps. So I'll just go ahead and put that in. I also have a new retainer clip. So just reversing what I did, should be able to get this together pretty quick. Okay, so I got that put together. It's pretty straightforward. This retainer clip on the bottom, pretty much all it does is hold this strainer on. And then just this rubber piece that the whole pump sits on, and the pressure against that bracket is what holds it in. Hadn't put this connector on yet, but that should just slide on. Try and do this one-handed. There we go. Okay, so that connector's in there. So we're good. The retainer clip, I'll get back to that real quick, is a little bit of a pain to put on, but what I did was, and I'll try and balance it here, I used a little socket and a hammer, and I just put the retainer clip on there, so a little tiny socket that fits around the post, but not the retainer, so I just put that on there like that and beat on it here with a hammer and got that retainer clip on. So pretty easy. I messed around with a screwdriver for a few minutes, couldn't get it to work. So anyway, so this is it. So with the new pump on, this connector fit. You know, I'm glad I didn't have to splice in the other wires. That's a bit of a pain to get the connector that came with the pump. So I think we're golden. So now I'm just going to reverse the process, put this back in. Okay, so I have the whole float and pump assembly put back into the tank, and I just wanted to stop here and mention one more thing before I move on, and that is there's a large O-ring about, I don't know, 3/8 in diameter or so, that sits under this cap and seals the tank so that gas can't slosh out and around the tank and get out. So the important thing here is when we put this cap back on, you see we have these 6 nuts, is that we get this tightened down flat. So I'm just going to tighten it down just slowly and just use a star pattern and keep working my way around and get real nice flat pressure. So we don't want to be cockeyed on that on that O-ring. We want it to be flat so that it seals all the way around. We're not leaking any gas, so that would be bad, so we're going to try and avoid that. Okay, so I got the whole assembly bolted into place. I got the hoses back on where they belong, and so now all I have to do is put the connector on and get the boot on. There's a lip around here that that the boot seals against, and that goes on pretty easy, so I'll just do that and put the cap on, and we're done with this part. Alright, so that's all buttoned up. Now we can put the seat back in, but I think before I do that I'll go ahead and test it. Make sure pump runs and car starts, and so I'll do that, and if that works we'll get the seat in, and we're just about done.